Today's meeting of the Victims Committee meeting. Let's go ahead and do roll call and introductions, and then we'll get started with the rest of our agenda. So if you could give your name and what you represent on the board, that would be great. I'm Chantel Gaynor. I'm with the Community Justice Department from Missoula County. I represent victim services for the Board of Crime Control, and I am the chair of this committee. Thank you all for coming. So I'll kick it to somebody and then you pick somebody else. So Amanda, you're next.
Okay. Hello, my name is Amanda Littleson. I am with the Domestic Violence Prevention Program. I can hear me off, but I'm working on a 5th year in a prevention for tribal.
It seems like we've got a tech issue. I don't know if we're all going to echo, but if so, maybe we'll be typing.
Hi, I'm Laurie Barron. I'm the superintendent of the Evergreen School District in Kalispell, and I represent education.
Thanks, Laurie. Chief, you want to go next?
Yep. Hey, Rob Weber, Chief of the Glasgow Police Department. I represent the Montana Association of Chiefs of Police.
All right. And then it looks like Alan, you're next.
Alan Doan from the Attorney General's office.
Great. I believe that's all board members who are present. And then if we could have staff introduce themselves, we'll start with folks in the room, and then whoever's just online, if you could call them out, that would be great.
Want me to start? Oh, Kim Keltz, Executive Assistant and the Grant Manager for DVI and CIT.
Griselda Dela Cruz, Program Supervisor.
I'm Andrew Bethel. I'm the representative for probation and parole.
Caleb Bragg, Executive Director for NBCC.
And online we have Hannah.
Cheers. Hi, Hannah Larson, Administrative Officer.
Great. And then there is space for public comment as we go through our agenda. It would be helpful for me to know if you have public comment on our first agenda item or our second agenda item as we work through it. So if you've got, say, public comment for the domestic violence intervention, the funding opportunity and the standards, just put a hand up and then I'll know that's what you've got questions about. And for the state planning overview, if when we get to that agenda item, if that's where you have questions, it'd be great to know. And if you're just here to listen, that's also wonderful. So moving into our agenda, we've got so domestic violence intervention funding, talking through a little bit of the history, but for Kim in particular, when it comes time to talking about the standards, so item number 2, if you could talk a little bit about the history and what all is baked into this, that might be helpful, especially for committee members where this might be obscure state history that they don't know anything about. So I kick it over to you, Kim.
As far as the history goes, like I said, I didn't say this, but this is my first go around with working with the standards in detail like we did this year, because we had to change some of the language due to some of the language change in the DVI MCA language. And the history, I think I will have Griselda help me with that.
And I don't know the one.
The NOFO. Yes. So I'm gonna go over. Alrighty, the Montana legislature passed Senate Bill 280 during the 2025 session. to revise grant requirements for domestic violence intervention program. This bill modifies section 44-7-201 of the MCA. This amended language allows the Board of Crime Control to fund monitoring of offenders for compliance with court orders, expanding coverage to those charged, not just convicted, and replacing sentencing with court orders for clarity, effectively shifting focus to ensuring compliance with court orders. And then you have the statute, and the language is actually right there, everything that got that was replaced or amended. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just to comment on the revision, I listened to the legislative hearings. This bill was brought by Senator Yakowicz, and some of those hearings really looked at getting folks out of the Yellowstone County jail, and so opening up beds. And so this statute change allows that scope. It widens the scope. It expands the scope now for folks that are charged with those particular crimes in this 280 to use, or excuse me, for subgrantees to use those monies, not just for people convicted of. So monitoring funds can go to now those charged with. And I think the original intent based off those hearings was to start opening up more beds in the detention facilities. So that just gives a little bit of history on that. And then because of the change with 280, we wanted to look at the notice of funding opportunity to ensure that we're able to receive data or measurables or whatever that looks like regarding this change, because that's a pretty big change. So Kim's going to talk more about the NOFO.
So within the funding application, you pull that up, please. Thank you. I don't know if you want me to go through each one of the pages that we did a revision on, but we are expecting to have a DVI opportunity out. Let me find my dates. Excuse me, things are backwards. All right, on March 16th. So planning on opening March 16th. Right, the changes that we made, that we amended, were on page 4. The description of what misdemeanor probation is, we edited some of that, and we changed the language from to add to or charged with partner or family member assault. And then on page 5, we took out some of the what would you call these, Criselda?
Well, the eligibilities.
Yes, the eligibilities, thank you. And we changed the language on the 2 that are in there now. We had quite a few other ones in there that we took out because they didn't quite apply, or they weren't applicable any longer due to the new language. And then I have just all the dates for the open date, close date, offers, call, all that stuff just right here. If you would like to read through that for a moment, or if you have any questions, let me know.
I just want to, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. This didn't change the actual dollars available. We're anticipating it's going to be roughly 100 to 125,000 per year.
Yes, it did not change the amount. No, just the language. So now we have a little bit broader for courts to apply. That's essentially what the language did. It kind of just opened it up to a little bit broader audience.
And for those on the board who don't know, and I invite being corrected by staff if I'm wrong, the funding source comes from marriage license fees, and it's sort of a small amount that then gets collected to fund this.
Yes. Thank you.
And I think for the committee, what would be helpful is as we if we get requests from the legislature or just in general, being able to share how these monies are used, what should we be asking? What should we be including in the opportunity to collect data on how these monies are being used? So now that it's not just for convicted offenders being monitored, it's now with charged offenders. So folks on bond, one of the strategies that we have is within the opportunity, and Griselda, you may have to, please correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the strategies that within the opportunity we use is that we set these, it's on page, 13. I think page 12 or 13.
13, yes.
We set these strategies for folks who apply for this grant, and then they set their goals. So I think what's important is, what do we put as strategies here to make sure that when subgrantees who receive this money, they're setting goals that ultimately get us data points where we can say, for example, $100,000 was spent toward folks charged with PFMA, or $50,000 was spent for folks convicted of strangulation. I don't know if that's the direction we need to go, but because the scope has expanded, do we need to amend our strategies that subgrantees use to create goals?
Chantel, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So for clarification, same funding source, same pot of money, broader scope of use, and we're defining the broader scope of use?
I would say yes.
Okay. So we don't have
Opens
any
it
more
up.
money. We have the same amount of money we
No.
already had. We can just use it for
Yes.
a wider range of purposes.
Yes, for courts to apply.
For what?
Not technically.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, so it opens it up for folks that have been, let's see, where's that language? That have been convicted of, so they don't have to go through the system and be charged to then be able to fall under the misdemeanor probation.
So, but they don't have to be convicted?
They don't have to be convicted, no. So it's the pre, so it would open it up to the pre-conviction, so that maybe they're not held in jail, so that they can be released to be monitored until they go through the court system. So it opens it up to that population.
So that we can support someone who's charged while they're waiting on their hearing, not so that it's just supporting the offender, right? Or the accused offender.
It's providing funds to a entity that does monitoring services for offenders. They can use that money to maybe purchase additional ankle bracelets or whatever that, GPS monitoring, whatever it is. So supporting now organizations that monitor offenders on bond can use
and the
that
idea
money for
is that maybe that offender is not incarcerated while waiting on a hearing if we can do better monitoring.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's worth noting that not that many people who are charged with domestic violence are held in jail ahead of a hearing, unless the charges are quite serious, including aggravated assault with a weapon, strangulation under some circumstances. So for I would say, lower acuity misdemeanor partner family member assault, particularly a first or second, very few people in the state are held in jail. The vast majority are released pretrial, and whether or not somebody can be compelled to say a class pretrial is a little open question. But in terms of monitoring GPS or otherwise, that can be an effective strategy if done in partnership with victim services and law enforcement. It's nuanced, domestic violence is nuanced. So it is an expansion of scope, and I'd say we would need to know that the folks who are stepping up to meet that need have the background and experience necessary to really understand the dangers. Because I mean, domestic violence is one of those crimes that can go from a misdemeanor to a homicide in a split second. I'm sorry, I want to bounce back from the goals to the eligibility just to make sure I'm understanding something. In the past, for-profit agencies could apply. Compliance monitoring was one who regularly applied. And the eligibility requirements now have it private nonprofit agencies, but no longer include for-profit. So I just want to make sure I've got that correct. And then hand in hand with that, it says, if nonprofit agencies, they're highly encouraged to submit collaboration MOU with local law enforcement. And I'm curious about if there was discussion about also Area Victim Services Agency.
Who wants to answer that question? I'm still reading through this.
Were these amended, the eligibility?
The eligibility was not amended, no.
So as my understanding is that the eligibility has been the same that you guys have seen and for this committee for the last however long, that hasn't been amended. So if that's something that we want to look at amending or changing, I think we can do that now.
Okay, I'm not pitching that we are funding for-profit agencies. In fact, in the past, when we have been, I've had a question about it, but the answer was they're eligible. So now I'm curious because as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, were they? Anyway, that is a different question for a different day. So then for eligibility, then I would say, particularly for people getting in the pretrial game, they very much need to work with local victim services agency. And if there isn't a local one, at least have some contact with the state coalition.
So Chantel, so regarding the eligibility, sentence to private nonprofit agencies are highly encouraged to submit a collaboration MOU with a local government law enforcement agency, and what you're saying, and connect with or collaborate with a victim services organization. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And for board members, is there any other, like, I'm pitching this as an idea. Is there a disagreement? Is there, it's neutral? Is there agreement?
I agree. I think that collaboration is important.
All right.
Kelsey has a comment. Do you want me to read it?
Encouraged. I think so.
Okay, Kelson says, I think that who's applying for funding, quote unquote, has become very convoluted over time as this program has expanded.
Yeah, I agree with that. What
Go
ahead. So I would say compliance monitoring has demonstrated that they've been running an effective misdemeanor probation program specializing in domestic violence. It is in partnership with their with local community. However, if we're not careful and eligibility isn't closely tracked, we also open ourselves up for bail bonds, right? That would be pretrial supervision in some reading, but bail bonds are, they're absolutely profit driven. So, and would they provide effective monitoring? I don't know. I haven't read any studies about that. I can't speak to that. But I want to ensure eligibility is about ensuring that these very limited funds go to proven programs or programs with best practices baked in. And like I said, working closely with their victim services providers.
A couple other comments that are pretty good.
Yeah.
Chantel, we have public comment. Do you want us to go ahead and read that out loud? What's your preference?
Yes, in a second. Before we jump to that, I want to ask board, are there any questions or comments cooking now before we read public comments?
It's Amanda Littleson. I agree with Chantel. There needs to be compliance. Is there? I'm not sure because of the scrolling. How much cooperation these or collaboration, I don't know what you want to call it, applicants need to show proof of. I know, is that like a reporting? Would that be in the reporting section? Not sure. But it does say they have to have a plan, a 12-month project period with 3 to 5 goals. So I guess that if that's in the application, maybe we could have one of those goals be worded in a way that they're connected and making a collaborative effort. I'm not sure. But
should we just look at amending that language from highly encouraged to requiring the collaboration?
I think that would be the safest way to ensure that the recipients are being collaborative with this grant that they're getting with the funding. They're not misusing it. They have a requirement to use the funding for, this purpose. I think that would be fine.
I agree with that. I would add, we would need to define victim services agency. Not all victim services, not all people who provide victim services are in fact victim services agencies. And I do want to ensure that it is based in, again, best practices for the field of sexual and domestic violence and trafficking. So yes, required, but also let's ensure that the definition of victim services agency is aligned with those standards. I would say just a lesson learned from a federal application. At one point, we were partnering with First Step Resource Center, which is part of the St. Pat's Hospital, and our application got kicked out because they weren't considered a victim services agency because first and foremost, they're a hospital. So it's the primary mission kind of idea. And again, aligned with best practices. So I don't think it is worth it for us to try and wordsmith it here. Is that something that staff, you would be able to develop?
Well, I'm going to throw a wrench in this, I think. So I think when we look at eligibility and we look at that line of private profit agencies are highly encouraged to submit a collaboration MOU. And if we ended up voting on this and changing it, my understanding is that's only relevant to the OIP and the court program, not the misdemeanor probation. So are we saying we would want to require that for the misdemeanor probation subgrantees and not the folks that apply under the court, the court program, essentially?
Yeah, so the collaboration, the highly encouraged is for all of the funding. But if applying for the OIP, then it says that these other courts are eligible applicants. So the eligibility is for all of the funding. That's how I know it. And just to be transparent, there hasn't been anybody in the last few years that submitted collaboration because we've always said it's highly encouraged. We've never asked for a MOU, and so we don't have to check for it or make it a requirement. But if that's something that is decided by the committee, then that's something that we can do.
Given that
The
we're
other-
opening this to pretrial, and pretrial can include, like I said, bail bonds, I think it's important that we have guardrails here.
Does the committee want to consider making that a strategy, as us listing it as a strategy, where they have to report on it as a goal regarding collaboration?
Somebody has an idea. Hey, whoever's from Haven, that's lots of good stuff to say. Goals that the program can validate through victim services. So ensure the offender is progressing, Jesus, in changed beliefs and attitude. So goals of the program can validate through victim services. So to ensure the offender is progressing in changed beliefs and attitudes.
Madam Chair.
I'm in my head thinking about this. I like the idea, and I'm a little nervous about connecting the dots, meaning if the person who has been harmed in the situation isn't involved in victim services, and the person who is charged is going through, say, a class, and that's getting reported to victim services, it's like those dots might not get connected. So the concept makes sense, and in practice, I'm not sure how it would. So that is something that I'm not sure we can necessarily tackle in the course of this meeting. But I think it bears thinking through. Other board members, what do you think?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Lori.
I'm confused on a point of order here. Sometimes I get siloed in my own day-to-day job, so I don't know who everybody is on the call, right? Who's a public commenter, who's a board member. For point of order, do we do all of the board discussion first and a motion and a second and then allow for public comment? Or is public comment part of the whole discussion while the board is discussing? I'm not sure who's who, and it's confusing me for point of order here.
Lori, I appreciate you saying that, and I think you're right that returning to the structure of meeting is important. So thank you. And for folks who are writing comments, these comments are valuable, and I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to bring them into conversation, but I also don't want us to be either outside of our agenda or walking past the ways that we need to maintain that progress. So for this, let's go ahead and I would say, as you're writing stuff, ensure that we're capturing it, please. And when we get to the end of our discussion, let's bring those comments into our discussion. So with that, we are talking about the eligibility, talking about how to address ensuring that these funds are in fact made available to entities who are going to provide strong practice based in what we know that really serves the safety and health of folks who've been harmed by these crimes, as well as ensuring accountability. I mean, those are the two big goals, right? So with regards to MOU being encouraged versus mandatory, let's start there. Is there a motion to further that conversation? or has it run its course?
Can you highlight the section you're talking about on the screen?
Um,
I'm trying to find the exact language and I'm having a hard time.
it's,
I see eligibility.
yep, so,
So highly encouraged to submit collaboration MOU. That's what we're debating.
yep, so,
Yep.
and then the second piece to that is including collaboration with victim services provider, not just local law enforcement.
My thoughts would be to leave it as is. I think when we start adding all these different components, if the law enforcement agency isn't as cooperative or other organizations aren't as cooperative, you can still collaborate, but to have to require an official memorandum of agreement, and those have to go through votes for different entities. And I just think it puts a hoop jump in place for these agencies trying to help people. And I think a formal required collaboration MOU is difficult. We do a lot of MOUs and it takes a lot of time to do them. And so I think encouraging strong collaboration is important, but requiring them to submit a formal MOU, I would not be in favor of.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All right, seeing nothing. Okay, then the second component, still at encourage, including victim services agency in that language. Any further comments on that?
If it's an encouragement, not a requirement, that doesn't bother me to add it.
All right, any other board members? Okay. Seeing nothing. Board staff, is this something that we vote on, or can you just take that from our conversation?
I recommend, this is Kayla Bragg. I recommend if the committee would like to add the victim services agency collaboration, I would vote on it. So if somebody can make a motion with the language and have a vote.
All right. Looking for a proposal, please, or a motion.
This is Amanda Littleson. I motion to keep the keep it as is.
All right, so not adding collaboration with victim services agency?
Oh. Is that not in there? I thought it says to submit a collaboration memorandum of understanding. I thought that was part of it already as
it only asks for law enforcement agency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh. Okay, so I rescind that and let's see. How would I word that? To add one more. Lori, do you want to?
I would say the motion could be to keep encourage and add the victims agency to the language.
There we go.
I will make that motion. Do you want to second it, Amanda?
I second Lori's motion.
Thank you very much. All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 And any opposed? Same motion? Great. We will amend that language to include victim services agency as part of recommended collaboration. All right, then in terms of the NOFO, anything else that other than, or we were looking at the goals. And then staff, could you walk us through those, please?
So we have two strategies in the NOVO. And I'm going to get to that section here. The first strategy is to provide community assistance to develop or continue misdemeanor probation, monitor compliance officers, or an offender intervention program in order to increase offender accountability and victim safety and reduce recidivism. And so we add the strategy. The agency that is applying would then give us 3 to 5 goals that relate to that strategy. The second strategy, which we added, is to evaluate the project for effectiveness of services and activities under this program. And then again, requesting 3 to 5 goals.
Well, this is Amanda Littleson. This is where I would add possibly add a part that says highly encouraged for one of the goals to be, you know, about collaboration or compliance, or I don't know. So we're not requiring it, but highly encouraging it in the strategies and goals.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Griselda. So in order to, we as staff and the system that we use for grant management, we can't add goals, but we can add a strategy. And so just to be clear, we can add a strategy if that is your wish, which would be based on the language of the eligibility, which, you know, describe how you will be collaborating with your community, law enforcement, and victim service providers. And then they could add goals, but that would be the only way that we would be able to add anything to the application is in the form of a strategy.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I don't want to add, I don't want to make a goal for the applicant, but just highly encourage them to. I mean, it's only mentioned once up there, so yes, that's what I was.
Lori, did you have a question or comment?
Yep. If we add it as a strategy, are all strategies required to be addressed?
Yes.
Then we can't add it as a strategy if it's not a requirement, right? Because we're encouraging.
Good point.
Well, we can, if there's an agency that is applying for funding, we can say, how is it that you're working with your community in regards to misdemeanor probation?
Without it being a formal MOU?
Without it being a form, correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that works for me. Amanda, does that address what you were hoping it does?
I think that would be great just to add that, you know, little question on there.
Great. Following before, I think we're going to need a motion.
This is Laurie. I'll make the motion that we add the strategy to encourage communication within our agency.
This is Amanda Littleson, and I'll second Lori's motion.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. All right, anything else in the NOFO that we should be aware of?
Can you tell me what you're saying? Anything else in the what?
Notice of funding, NOFO. Lori, you know what?
That drives me
You do such a
crazy.
good job of saying quit with the acronyms.
Yeah, y'all got to stop that. NOFO
Yeah,
sounds inappropriate on this end when it comes across.
I will curtail the use of NOFO.
Thank you.
All right, so staff though, is there anything else in the funding notification that we need to be discussing?
No, I just asked Priscilla if there's anything else we missed. She says no. I can't think of anything else myself.
I have one follow-up question then.
Okay.
On page 4, there is a discussion about misdemeanor probation, the purpose, etc. Will we need to include similar language around pretrial?
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. I would recommend that we just kind of clean up the language to maybe not refer to it as misdemeanor probation, or say just probation and compliance, just because the crimes aren't just misdemeanors. So we could, and I don't think, yeah, so I think if we cleaned up some of the probation, the misdemeanor probation language, we could maybe address that, since it can be used for monitoring felonies as well. If that helps.
Yes, and again, pretrial. I mean, there's statutes that govern that as well. So ensuring that if these dollars are available for pretrial services, that we're not just talking about probation. All right. So other than that, do you need us to vote on accepting the notice of funding opportunity with the recommended changes?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
So
please.
we'll need another motion, please.
Hey, Rob Weber, I'd like to make a motion to accept the notice of funding thing with the changes in it.
And this is Amanda Littleson. I second Rob's motion.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. All right, let's move on to offender intervention program standards.
Alrighty, we spent quite a bit of time on these, making some revisions. We also kind of changed the formatting a little bit as well. So the formatting will be different. And we took out the lethality section. And why did we change that? Why we did that? So
across the nation, there are a lot of lethalities that are both evidence-based and available to communities. A lot of them require a substantial amount of funding in order to use it. And so in knowing that agencies across the board, if they're working with offender intervention strategies, they can pick and choose whatever lethality assessment of their choosing. We don't want to make it a requirement on our behalf, because that's what we're familiar with across the state. Some agencies, and a lot of agencies across the state right now, are using the appraised lethality assessment, but others use the Jackie Campbell. Kind of depends on if it's based through the law enforcement or if it's based through victim services. And so in order to make it a little more open to agencies to pick and choose what it is that they're going to be using, again, with the affordability and their resources, we felt that it was necessary to remove the assessments that were previously on the original document.
Thank you for that explanation.
yes, thank you. And the other thing we did is we added, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask for what other changes, but also I'm going to guess that there's a handful of folks on the board and maybe from the public who are not familiar with offender intervention program writ large. So batterers intervention, education, purpose behind it, and then these standards and some history of how standards have developed nationally. So if you have any of that information just to ground this conversation, I think it would be helpful.
And like I said, this is my first shot at going through these, so I'm still kind of learning some of it because there was a lot, and it was a lot for my poor brain. So I'm gonna ask Griselda to help me out with that one.
Do you want me to address it or Kayla can address it?
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. So, yeah, this is our offender intervention program standards they're statutory. So the board is required by 447210 to adopt these standards. It's my understanding that we have not had a court apply for the domestic violence intervention program monies for purposes of establishing an intervention program. So we've not had a subgrantee use funding for purposes of this type of court program. So when you were provided in your packet the current version and then the draft, the proposed draft. As we went through it, we tried to bring in, as you look at it, you'll see bringing in different sources. So sourcing the Office on Violence Against Women and looking at different definitions. So trying to provide different sources for items. And then also looking at it through the lens of what is the court, how are we able to hold a court to these standards, and how are we going to be able to successfully monitor them and their compliance through these offender standards, which we're required to do. So that took a lot of just cleanup. You can see it looks a little bit different. And this is the first go. I imagine over the next year or so, if we don't have subgrantees that are under this, we'll look at it again and we may consider other changes. But this is the first draft since Griselda and Kim and I took a shot at just kind of updating it. But some of the things like the lethality assessment, a court, that's already, our understanding was that would already have gone through the process. A survivor would have already have done that. They or whoever would already be working with law enforcement. And so this these standards had things that we did not believe were applicable to courts at the time they're using it and applying for it with us. So you'll see some of those changes, and happy to answer any questions about them.
Okay. And then were experts from the field consulted?
They were not, no. 3 of us worked on it together and did our own research, and Griselda had quite a bit of information that was helpful.
Yeah, so Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. We have not talked to external experts yet, but based off the version that moves forward after the committee, we can certainly spend some time between now and getting it in front of the board at the March meeting to have those comments ready. And then obviously, once you open up to public comment, we're happy to hear any other comments the public have about the draft.
Okay, that's great. And then one more sort of along those lines, especially considering that the Office of Court Administration is on the board of crime control, ensuring that they have had a chance to take a look at what this means for courts.
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. Yes, we could send to board member McAlpin for his comments. We will also be adding this information in the board binder for the upcoming March meeting. And so there'll be another opportunity to have this information as well. But I can send him, if the chair would like, I could send him a separate email and send him the current version and the version the committee passes.
Yes, thank you for that. Alrighty, so I guess we're voting to adopt these draft standards with more discussion in March. Is that
yes,
correct?
we can do that. Want more discussion today?
Chair, this is Kayla. I would just open, if it pleases the chair, open it up to board members to see if they have any questions about any of the different sections of the standards.
Of course. So. Board members, questions or comments?
Looks good to me.
All right. Not seeing other questions or comments, then clarifying again, are we voting to adopt a draft for more conversation in March?
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. Yes, if the committee would entertain a motion to adopt the draft version, and then we can continue the conversation at the March board meeting. And then the board would adopt the final draft that would be available for the March 16 notice of funding opportunity to the public.
All right. Board members, we will need a motion.
This is Amanda Littleson. I motion to move forward with submitting this version with further discussion in March.
Rob Weber, I'd second that motion from Amanda.
Great. All in favor, please vote by saying aye.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
Chantel.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm so sorry. Lori, yes.
So again, I'm just doing point of order here. Do we need to then have a final chance for discussion and public comment before we vote, or no?
Yes. Yes, we do. So any further discussion? Great. If I'm not mistaken, I think we vote and then we take public comment based on the agenda. Is that correct? Or do we take public comment now before we vote?
We vote first.
Chair, I think you can do it
Yeah.
either way, however you please.
All right. Let's take our vote and then get the public comment because it will help inform what's coming back to the board. All right. So all in favor of Amanda's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right. So let's take public comment based on both the notice of funding opportunity as well as the offender intervention program standards. I will say it's hard doing this virtually. So staff, I need help seeing who might have their hand up, who has a comment. I see Kelson. Are there others?
Do you want me to go ahead, Chantel?
Yeah, let's start there. And if somebody else does want to make a comment, please put your hand up.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kelson Young, the director of the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. And thus far in this morning's discussion, I guess I would just offer our assistance in a couple ways. We are happy to be contacted and asked for input on these standards, especially given that we have been involved from the beginning and have taken a leadership role over the years in terms of organizing some of the offender intervention work. I do believe that the standards are what they are, and until courts actually start using them, they haven't really been vetted. And so oftentimes when we look at these standards, they come across as theoretical, but it's very important for victim advocates to have eyes on these because we often see the holes and the cracks in terms of where victim services or where victims themselves are unfortunately left out of the process. I understand the board's job is to make these decisions and then receive public comment after the fact, but I would highly encourage the standards to be distributed to the field in some way before the board takes a final vote. I think it's a sort of
cart before the horse at times when we talk about public comment in this space. So I would encourage you, if possible, to continue to allow for external comments on the standards. I'm also happy if it would be helpful to give sort of a historical overview of the domestic violence intervention program. That's actually been in place since 2005 when we created the marriage license fee. And as I said briefly in my written comment, the who is supposed to apply for that has really changed. And I think it would be in all of our best interest to do an outreach campaign about how this program can and should be available to communities. And again, the coalition stands ready to help in any way we can. And we look forward to being able to do so. And I'm happy to answer any questions that would be helpful, Chair Gaynor. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, is there any additional public comment? Steve.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just wanted to let you know that I posted a comment. I think it would be really good for you guys to reach out to Officer Jerkowski. She's the president of the Montana Misdemeanor Probation Pretrial Services Agency. We've been working really hard in getting all the agencies in the state certified under the post requirements. There are agencies out there who call themselves misdemeanor probation officers and pretrial services officers who are not certified. And they would be able to provide you more information about that. I just think it would be good for all of the board to hear from us, because we are a growing group of people, and they work really hard with a lot of folks.
Great. And before you go, could you give us your first and last name and where you're from?
Sure. My name's Steve Etta. I'm the director of Gallatin County Court Services. Just so you know, we've been providing pretrial services since 2000, 25, 26 years now, and misdemeanor probation for 20 years. And the Board of Crime Control actually provided us our grant to start misdemeanor probation a long time ago.
Thank you for that. Any other public comment? All right. Any other questions from the board regarding the comment that we got? All right. We are unfortunately over time. So if we could have a very brief discussion about the state planning overview, we don't need a vote on it. I'm sorry to ask for more of your time, but I want to make sure that at least this gets addressed. Kayla, to you.
I'm going to skip me for purposes of time and go straight to Criselda to update you on our meetings that we've had.
This is Criselda. So during the month of January and February, we, meaning the program managers, Misty Donhauer and Jackie Hoover, along with the staff here, have been meeting to put a plan together in state victim planning for FIPSA and VAWA, which are the two big federal formula grants that require state plans and implementation plans. We would use, of course, all of the information for all of the victims funding, but in essence, those are the two grants that of the why we are doing this ginormous state plan. It feels like a ginormous plan. But so far up to date, the information that you have in your binders was put together 2 weeks ago. Since then, we've had another 2 sessions, so makes it a total of 7 planning sessions discussing the areas of needs, gaps in services, and underserved populations. There were a total of 133 individuals. With the 5 groups, we are now over 150 individuals that have registered to participate, and over 170 that were in attendance. And then just capturing different discussions. Again, there's 2 different documents in your binders that you can review, but looking at the limitations on time, I will leave that to this. We are not done with all of the sessions. We continue to plan a couple more focusing on implementation planning for the victims of for VAWA. And once we get that, we will put the binder together and present that to you at a later time, which will not be March board meeting.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the state planning overview? All right. And I'll just say for me, I would love to see how this compares to the work that the board has previously done regarding studying the field gaps, duplications. So seeing this as a bit of an extension of previous work as well. And I would request that this is a presentation to the board to help ensure that the entire board has the knowledge and understanding of what the providers in our state are saying regarding funding, services, needs, etc. So with that, any last comments or questions for the good of the order? All right, hearing nothing, we can adjourn. Thank you so much.